with Joan Phillip, the NDP candidate for the riding of Central Okanagan, Similkameen and Nicola. Joan, your second run at this office. Why did you decide to go in again?
Well, I think that particularly in this riding, I believe we really need somebody different. We need a change. We've had 154 years of the same old, and the status quo is not acceptable anymore. We deserve better. And particularly now, with all these fires and COVID going on, it's more urgent that we need someone who's going to do things differently for this riding.
How much different, and what different measures will you bring in?
Well, to start off with, particularly with respect to the environment, we would stop the subsidies to big oil, $18 billion a year. We want to use those dollars in order to finance good, clean energy, which would also provide good long-term jobs for people. The other thing we'd do differently is we'd start taxing the ultra-wealthy, and that would help finance things like pharmacare, the elders' homes, long-term care. Right now, I think the most of the COVID outbreaks were in long-term care homes that were privately for-profit, privately held.
You talk about COVID. The federal government's response, your reaction?
Pretty anemic. I think that we have to be bold, and by bold, I mean we're going. Unfortunately, sometimes we have to legislate good sense, common sense, like the seat belts and so on. We're going to have to do the same with COVID. I don't understand why people would, as a cause, be anti-vaccination. It just boggles my mind that they would, if you're going to pick a cause, pick one that's positive and that's going to be helpful.
Would you be in favor of then mandatory passports, vaccine passports on a federal level?
I would say yes, absolutely. It just makes sense.
I'm assuming that you are vaccinated.
Double vaccinated.
And
yes.
Maybe triple at some point.
Well,
we're hearing.
My husband's immune suppressed. He had a liver transplant back in 1996. This year he had a kidney transplant, and being immune suppressed, he probably wouldn't survive COVID if he had not been vaccinated.
As we look into the future, and hopefully I know during the provincial election last year, it was, we're hopefully starting to get out of this and turn a corner in the spring and the summer. Turns out now we're in a fourth wave. Where do you see the country going once we do get out of this, and how do we get to where we need to go?
Well, I really believe that the New Democratic Party is always on the side of small business, which are the biggest employers in the country. And we really need to charge up and invest in those small businesses in order to get the economy going again. And I'm not confident that the other two parties would do that, because the only thing that's happened in 154 years is the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. So I really think that we need to rethink who's going to work for us. It certainly hasn't been the Conservatives or the Liberals. Who's going to work for the little guy?
The Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola riding, we hear about social issues throughout the Okanagan. Do you believe that's the number one issue in this riding?
I would think so, and it's because we've been greasing, the Liberals and Conservatives have been greasing the ultra-wealthy for for the last 154 years. So I think we need to invest in people. When I look at pharmacare, like I have to pay $228 for some of my medications, and I can afford it. What if I were retired? I would have to make a decision on whether to pay the light bill or get medications. And there are some of our elderly, that's exactly what they have to do.
Universal pharmacare.
Yes.
Another issue I know that's near and dear to you is residential schools and the atrocities that have occurred over the last number of months. The federal government's response and what your response would be.
They never once, either of the other two parties, either the Conservative Party or Trudeau, never darkened the doorway of Kamloops Indian Band. And I think that's criminal. I think that in order to properly investigate, we need an independent forensic look at what happened there, because it's like the wolf watching the hen house. I don't think that they're going to come up with anything that's fair for those people. Those children need to go home, and we need to know who they are and where they came from. Because Kamloops Indian Band just didn't have Shuswap children there. They were from all over the province, including North Vancouver. I had some of my relatives from Silelwatooth that went to that residential school. We need to know where those children came from, and we need to intern them properly at home.
I know we can't turn the clock back. What has happened has happened. But how do we learn? How do we move forward? Especially, as First Nation. How does your community move forward?
The difficulty is we need a government that is going to follow through with promises. The Liberals promised us $10 million when they first got in 6 years ago. That hasn't materialized ever. So they keep promising the same $10 million, and not a penny has crossed our desks. So we need to elect leadership that is going to actually follow through with the promises that have been made. We still have 51 communities that don't have proper drinking water.
And $10 million is probably not even enough.
No, it is not. And I recall when Jagmeet was being interviewed and the reporter was asking, well, how much is that going to cost us? And his response was, would you be asking that if it were Vancouver or Montreal? And it's true. We need those proper drinking water today. It's a basic human right.
Joan, I want to give you an opportunity now to look into the camera, talk to your your potential constituents, and tell them why they should vote Joan Phillip on September 20th.
Well, I believe that the constituents in this riding deserve leadership that's going to fight for them. We deserve a government that's on their side. And so far, the Liberals and the Conservative governments have just been pandering to the top 1%. We're talking the ultra-rich here. And I believe we deserve better. So vote NDP. Be bold, be different, because we're burning.
Joan Phillip, candidate NDP for the riding of Central Okanagan's Similkameen Nicola. Good luck on September 20th, and thanks for this.
Thank you.